All right, today we are diving deep into Rezolve AI. This is a stock that is, quite literally, on the edge. It's caught in this massive tug of war, and what happens this week could really define its future. So let's break it down and see who's got the upper hand.
So here's the big question, right? The one on every investor's mind. Is this thing about to break out, or are we staring down a breakdown? The volatility is just off the charts. It's on a total knife's edge. Is it going to fly, or is it going to fall? Well, the answer really comes down to this huge battle happening right now between some very powerful forces.
You see, this week, you've got these two major forces just slugging it out for control of Rezolve AI's direction. To really get a handle on where it's going, we've got to break down exactly what you need to be watching.
Okay, first up, let's talk about the big market movers. These are the external forces, the things outside of the company that are going to be pushing and pulling on RZLV. Because, before we even get into the company itself, you have to understand the bigger picture. Right now, this stock is kind of just along for the ride.
So here's a look at the economic calendar for the week. We've got pending home sales on Monday, initial jobless claims on Wednesday, and S&P Global Manufacturing on Friday. But look, the big one, the one everyone is watching, is Tuesday. That's when we get the FOMC minutes, the detailed notes from the Federal Reserve's last meeting. The market is just desperate for any hint that they might cut interest rates, and you can bet those minutes are going to be picked apart word by word for any clue.
And that's exactly why all that economic data is so important for this stock. A huge chunk of Rezolve AI's daily trading is driven by algorithms. So what does that mean? Well, it means the stock is basically on autopilot, just following the overall mood of the market. If the S&P 500 has a good day, Rezolve probably will too. If the market takes a dive, well, Rezolve is likely going down with it.
But it's not all about the big market moves. There is a huge company-specific event on the horizon that everyone has their eyes on. This could be the internal turning point that changes everything.
All right, get your calendars out and circle January 13th. That's the date of the next big investor and analyst call, and this is the next major catalyst. A lot of the big players, especially the institutions, they're basically waiting for this call before they decide to either pile in or just stay away. It's the moment the company gets to tell its story directly to Wall Street.
Okay, now let's talk about the other side of this tug-of-war, the pressure from short sellers. This is the bear case against RZLV. And we're talking about some serious downward pressure on this stock price, all coming from investors who are actively betting against it.
So who exactly is putting the squeeze on this stock? I mean, this isn't just a few small-time traders. We're talking about what feels like a strategic effort to just squash any momentum the second it starts to build up.
Now, get ready for this number. A whopping 21.26% of the company's publicly available shares are being shorted right now. Let that sink in for a second. That is a huge number. To put it in perspective, that's over 25 million shares in the hands of people who are betting this stock is going to drop.
And just a quick refresher, short interest is just the total number of shares that have been borrowed and sold with the hope of buying them back later at a lower price. So when you see a percentage this high, it's a massive signal. It tells you there's some really strong pessimistic feeling out there from a big chunk of the market.
And you can really see that pessimism playing out right here in the transaction data. Just look at these recent large trades of over $100,000. You see one decent-sized buy, and then it's just sell, 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 sell. It seems pretty clear that the big money is either getting out or just waiting on the sidelines for that January 13th call.
But hey, that is only one side of the story, right? For every seller, there has to be a buyer. So let's flip it over and look at the bullish counterargument. These are the tailwinds, the things that could really push RZLV higher.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Check out this quote from a user on Twitter. "I just ordered a gift on Amazon using an AI assistant." This is what it's all about. This shows the real-world use case for the kind of tech Rezolve is working on. It's not just some abstract concept. It's designed to make things easier for people in their everyday lives. And that is the fundamental story the bulls are betting on. And it's not just regular folks getting excited. We've also got a recent analyst upgrade. The well-known firm Cantor Fitzgerald just gave the stock a pretty big thumbs up. And here is the number that has the bulls all fired up, $8. Cantor Fitzgerald raised their price target from $7 all the way up to $8. That tells you they see a lot more upside from here. It gives the bulls a very clear, tangible target to shoot for.
Okay, so we've got the bulls, we've got the bears. Now let's get practical. Where is this battle actually going to be fought? Well, it all comes down to a few key price levels on the chart. These are the technical battlegrounds for the week.
All right, these are the numbers you're going to want to watch. On the downside, you've got support. Think of it as the floor at 271 and 231. The stock really needs to hold those levels. Then on the upside, you've got resistance, the ceiling, at 337 and, more importantly, $4.02. For the bulls to really take control, they have to smash through that $4 ceiling.
So what's the final verdict for this week? Well, the prediction is for a modest gain. You know, that optimism around the FOMC minutes could give the stock a gentle push higher, maybe into the low $3 range, but a major breakout past $4, it seems pretty unlikely, at least not until we get to that big catalyst on January 13th.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question for the week. Are we seeing the start of a nice run-up in anticipation of good news on January 13th? Or is all this volatility just a carefully laid trap by the short sellers? The battle lines are drawn, and this week we're going to see which side has the upper hand.